Hi there. Today we jump into the topic fear of failure. Me and Zach go into some real things that we've gone through and aspects of our lives that failure has affected our mentality, us physically or spiritually in some ways as well. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in to season 2, episode 1, and let's continue to open some doors, y'all. Hey guys, Nick here.
What's going on, y'all? Zach here.
We're just two guys trying to make the world a better place.
And welcome to the Doors.
We are recording.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Season 2 of The Doors, where we stand for the developers of our own opportunities through the reinforcement of our own success. And the people here at The Doors, we really believe that people that do great things do it by following their heart and take their time doing it. And today, we're going to be discussing the fear of failure. And as always, I'm with my co-host, Nicholas Sternloff, and I'm Zachary Otts. What's going on, bud? How are you?
Oh man, honestly, so real quick rundown for everyone that has we had about 15 regular listeners for the Doors, and I mean, we honestly went blackout for about a month, but it was important because we really needed that break to coalesce our thoughts, to collaborate and figure out what we need to do moving forward. So I'm doing great right now, man. I'm feeling energized. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I'm ready to just jump on this podcast and talk about what our topic is today, and that is the fear of failure. So Zach, why don't you jump into that?
So this is my understanding of just kind of how life is going for me at this time. Mm-hmm. And I know we're all going through something, but I really believe that all of our past failures, our frustrations, trials, tribulations, addictions, whatever it is, they've really built us a solid foundation for us to bring out our full potential, to go down that journey that we call life and to find our purpose. So that's going to kind of be the overview of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go through blaming your circumstances for things you can't achieve, what it means to be shell-shocked, and also give you ways and important feedback into how to overcome those fears. So, Nick, one of the questions I got to start us out with is, why do you think fear holds people back?
I've honestly been asking myself this question lately, and I think it's really interesting because I really wanted to bring up what reminded me of this topic. I can't think of it at all. But this is something that I'm trying to put into practice as well. Is I think that we all look towards the best outcome. We dream of dreams to the best outcome of situations that can come our way. But at the end of the day, we think about them not coming true, and we think about these circumstances, outcomes, dreams, whatever you have, going the worst possible way that they could. Well, I want to be a public speaker. Well, maybe I'll end up in a ditch someday as a drug addict. That could be the worst thing. But at the end of the day, I never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to move forward, and that's a big fear. I know me personally at the moment, I'm not going to end up in that position. But my fear is that the things that I want to do, the things that I want to accomplish, that it's either going to take much longer to accomplish them or I never accomplish them, or the worst possible thing is going to happen. Because the world is full of open-ended questions and doors that we will never open. But at the same time, I mean, we can open all the doors that are before us. So I know that was an interesting ramble, but yeah.
It's interesting, man, because, my perspective on failure is, failure is a test. Nick, you've read green lights as well. Some failure can be red lights, but some of it can also be green lights for, getting stuff out of our way. And sometimes we don't know why. We don't know why things happen to us. We don't know why we fail. But I do know that if you're afraid to fail, it's going to create self-doubt in you. It's going to allow you to keep from doing the things that you want to do, the things that make you happy. So you got to make sure, regardless of what you're doing, you're still exploring yourself. You're still putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, and you're not allowing your circumstances to really overcome who you are. Because there's going to be things in life, guys, and I'm sure a lot of you's already experienced this. I experience it every day. Um, I'm just thinking about where I was not even a year ago. I didn't have a car because I went through some financial turmoil. I had lost the woman that I love. I lost my house. All these things that have just happened, and I was so scared about the outcome. But I realized that in that moment, I was also scared to try. I was scared to be who I actually was.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most frustrating things is, looking back on everything that's happening up until this point and realizing that, hey, if I would have just let go and kind of let God do his thing, it would have all worked out for the best. But I think it's really important, Nick, to discuss who this can affect.
Well,
Do you
I
think
mean,
everyone's scared to fail?
before jumping into that, like I think that's we can jump into who in a second, but I think what's so interesting about what you're talking about is like this is the reason why we came up with this topic in general at all. Is we had this topic. It was going to be our next podcast in December, like the second week or the first week, and like we both just were in this place where we felt kind of lost, kind of figuring things out, and like it was a fear of failure. Like we didn't know where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do. Like it's so many unknowns in that moment that I think that sometimes you have to take a step back and collaborate with yourself or your partners or your team or whoever you're working with and really address the situation, find out why am I fearing moving in this direction? Do I really even need to move in this direction? What's the right move? And how do we continue to move on from there? And that could be in any situation you're moving forward with, because at the end of the day, like I was like a big reason why we were on this topic is always because we were fearing that that the doors was going to fail. But the reason why most of all that we thought it was going to fail is because we were pushing it into something that it wasn't what it was. What it wasn't at all, I guess you could say. So at the end of the day, when we coerced these thoughts, these things together and realized the movements that we really truly need to make, which is sticking true to who we are, having a good time and trying to help others, that's when you start being like, okay, I can conquer the fears in front of me because they're not that big of a deal. I'm not pushing in a direction that's really going to make me fail. I'm pushing towards success. But that, again, that's why I wanted to jump into that topic. But just like Zach was talking about earlier, who does this affect? And the fear of failure affects everyone. And what's so interesting about this is that I'm going to go into me. Like, for me, I really feel this fear of failure. It's most of the time when I'm lonely, when I'm with my own thoughts, when I'm sitting in the middle of the night after a hard night of work, when I'm doing all these things. Here's a great experience. Last night, I worked for the first time on New Year's Eve. It wasn't a bad shift. I made great money. I made over $400, and I'm a server, so it was a great night. But I've never had to work into the new year. I've never had to work on such a holiday. And on the way home, I mean, I did get to celebrate. I got to cheers, whatever. But on the way home, I had this big, a fear of failure. It's like, damn, I just worked my ass off all day and made some money with all my friends are doing these things, blah, blah. I'm missing out. They're doing cool things. I want to be with them, blah, blah. Fear of missing out as well. And I realized that by putting my nose to the grindstone in that way, it allows me to, it's conquering my fears of failing in the future of my careers and different things. Like, I know I can do this now. I know I can work and push through that. But it's definitely crazy situations because anyone can be put in this, right, Zach?
Anyone. we get patterns from childhood. We false confidence. We have our egos to worry about. We have perfectionism or just fear of trying in general because we're scared of what people's going to think about us. You see it all the time with addicts, man. We're going through something right now in my family, and this is one of the things I love about the Doors is because we're able to be so vulnerable and so open here. But one of my cousins is going through a bad addiction with something that's pretty heavy, and he's doing so well, man. And just to see him now where he's coming from, he was 130 pounds, now he's almost 185 pounds. To
Wow.
see him overcome all of these things, almost shot, man. And it's one of these things where it's like, I feel like life gives you tests. They give you tests over and over again. And it's not so much as to how you go about doing it, but it's what you do. So when he went in, he just had no chance, man. And I feel comfortable saying this now because he knows it. He had no chance. He didn't want to live anymore. And he was so scared of failing at life, of just being able to try, that he resorted to addiction. He resorted to anything that could take his mind off of, this reality.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they've taught him in rehab and stuff now is that you can't be scared to fail, because it doesn't matter that you failed, but it matters what you do when you get back up. And he's going to come out and he's going to be a better man for it.
I mean, and I want to get into a story you told me a little while about, but I think that goes into one of my topics that was really big about this. Is one of the ideas is that how your fears, or basically your failures, mostly define who you are as an individual. And like, I think that we're brought up in such a way where your parents want you to succeed. Everyone wants you to succeed, that almost failing is looked at as such a negative term, where at the end of the day, the people that fail the most and continue to get back up and learn something from those mistakes are the ones that are the most successful. And to put Zach on the spot here in a situation, just like he was talking about his cousin going to his rehab, I think that Zach has been on a really interesting path lately, because he's letting, honestly, even some of his fears and different things be overcome by the moment he's in, and he's just taking control of that. And like he told me about this one time, he ended up leading the whole rehab facility in a conversation. If you jump into that conversation, if you want to, Zach, because it was a beautiful
Yeah.
moment. It was a beautiful moment, man.
So it actually wasn't at the rehab facility. It was at a church that I go to called Compassion. And they do meetings there where the family comes in and all the rehab people will be there. Well, they pulled the family aside, and we were all in there, and we were just kind of discussing, what addiction does to the families, how it rips us apart, how it does more to the families than it actually does to the addict. But the addict doesn't see it. They can't see it because they have a bubble wrapped around their head, from the drug or whatever it is that they're doing. There was just a few women in there, my aunt and my mom in there as well, because we go and we support my cousin. You have to have a good support system when you're going through something like that. But I just remember no one would really open up. It was very quiet and very, very silent. So I just felt almost like a tugging at my heart, man, to just like, hey, like, get these people to open up, like, get them talking, get them to tell you what they're most grateful for. So I started, down that route, just trying to, get them talking. And it was really beautiful. I had a mom that kind of stepped forward, and, she was going through something really hard. She was about to have another child. She had no money. Her husband's in rehab. He's, an addict, and she's trying to do the best for them and do the best for her kids. And, she just got so emotional, just opening up and letting go of her feelings and being able to finally feel like, okay, these people know what I'm going through. And it was just such a beautiful thing, man. Especially, we're talking about we're on these journeys and life is teaching us through our experiences, like that to me was worth more than like a year's salary just to see that. And same thing with my aunt, my mom, you know, very rarely, especially in my family, we're all very like stern, you know, we're all kind of closed off a little bit, but we're a family. We're close, we're close knit, and if anyone needs anything, we're always there. But we have a hard time dealing with our feelings and emotions. So even getting everyone to open up with, what are you grateful for? You know, not everything that's going on around you, but what are you truly grateful for? And you know, that's one of those things, Nick, I'm telling you, that is just, it's such a beautiful thing in life to see that there are little strings that attach us all. And that's all I'm going to say about that story. It kind of got me a little emotional a bit.
But I mean, that's honestly, it was such a beautiful, when you told it to me the first time, I was like, wow, like honestly, these are the kinds of things that the Doors is all about. And like, you're taking action and addressing these situations in your own life. And that gets into this point, that another point exactly about this is that when we have this fear of failure, one of the most important things to do is to address the feeling itself. I'm not saying deal with it. I'm not saying overcome it. I'm saying address it at all. Because one of the biggest things is that we feel lost. We don't know how to deal with our emotions. We don't know how to deal with ourselves in that moment. I've been on like in a fog like multiple times in my life in the past year, where the only thing I had to do was address my fears, address my fear of failure, and be like, wow, that's not a big deal, or wow, that is a big deal. How do I need to deal with the situation? And the most important part about that is addressing it in a sense where what I like to do is either write it down or at least speak it into existence, or tell someone about it, because then it's not just in my brain. It's something that has a physical attachment to it. It has something to it. And from that point on, now I can do my best to continue one step after the other to either overcome, to deal, or whatever I need to do to really figure out what I need to move forward with that failure, that fear. And that's so important in that moment, just addressing, like Zach did in that whole story. He didn't just, I don't think he had a fear of going up and speaking. I think he allowed people to address that fear of failure that their loved ones had, that they had, of the things around them. And that is so important, because putting that into existence, having that physical connection now, makes it easier for people to understand or address or deal with that situation.
Yeah, man. And I feel like there's a coin term for that. Shell shock.
Mm.
You know, you get so afraid and you refuse to try, you know. And I was talking to someone the other day and I said, most of the time it takes something tragic or something depleting to get someone to change. Why can't we change in the here and now? Why can't we change when we're happy? You know, why can't we look at failure as, this is making me better. Oh, this is a lesson I need to be learned. Because if we can do that in life, and I'm a carpenter, so I do that every day. You know, I just the other day I messed up framing. I had something that was out a quarter of an inch. I had to tear everything back out, demo the whole thing again, and then reframe it. But in that learning lesson, I realized that had I double checked my measurements, I wouldn't have done that. And life's full of those. Life's full of those lessons. Life's full of those tests.
Well,
And failure is one of the best teachers in the world.
yeah, dude, I think that goes into something like that really struck me when you said, why don't we change on the regular? I think that people, even me, I think that I, in this situation, get so comfortable in what I'm doing that I don't want to make changes. And I think that gets down to having a great like daily routine or a mindset that's open to change, or all these things, because comfortability is where you don't grow. It's not where you change or anything. It's a place where you get stuck in. And like we've talked about that before. And you were talking about getting shell shocked. There's this thing in cheerleading that we call, in gymnastics as well, like tumbling. It's called having a mental block, where you just stop, you build a wall up in your head of something you can't do, and you can't overcome that. And that's the same with these situations. It might be a fear of going out and getting a new job, or trying to follow your dreams, whatever it is, but you build this mental block up that's so high you can't even conquer it. But how do you get yourself out of that situation? For me, in those things, like, I've been in mental blocks many times in my life. What I try to do is I break it down to the smallest initial bits and steps that I can take. I take the smallest steps I can towards overcoming that. Because as long as I'm making movement to overcome my mental blocks, that fear of failure dwindles. It starts going away. I start becoming more confident in myself. I start building up this repertoire that even if I do fail, I'm going to get back up off my ass and keep on going. And that's important, y'all. You got to get back up off your ass. You got to keep grinding.
Yes, sir.
I have
So, Nick, how do we overcome this fear then? Like, how do we do it?
So, again, like I just said, I think taking those tiny steps and breaking down what your fear is actually about and what things you can do to overcome it. But I think that redefining what your fear is another way to try to do that. What I do is, when I have a fear of failure, like how I want to, like, I don't know how this year is going to go, how my internship is going to be. I don't want to fail, but I want to be great. I think that the most important thing is to understand the label fear of failure. Those three words is also equal to these three words: your desire to succeed. Desire to succeed. Your fear of failure equals your desire to succeed. How bad you feel like you're going to fail also is only because of how bad you want to become great, how bad you want to succeed in what you're doing. And if you understand the correlation between those two, and again, just like I said earlier, you break it down into the tiniest steps possible and take one tiny step after the other. The most important thing you do is you make a movement. You're growing. You're overcoming that fear of failure by your desire to succeed. Bam. Bam. Bam.
Woo! I see you. It's so true though, man. It's so true. And I mean, I think that's exactly what it has to be though. Like you cannot be scared to do it. Like, you've got to be one of those people who ask yourself, what can I lose?
Mm.
What can I lose? Well, guess what? Guess what you are going to lose? You're going to lose your ability to be creative. You're going to miss out on important opportunities. That other guy's going to come by and get the job. That other girl's going to get the guy. You're going to lose your financial means. You're going to not get the car. You're going to not get the school, whatever it is. So Nick just told you how to overcome it. Ask yourself, where is this fear coming from? Why am I scared? Take a deep breath. And then don't put limiting factors on your goal. Look back and do the things that you want to do, because you know that you have the power to do it. It's just taking that first step and seizing your day. Make sure that you give yourself the tools that you need. Like I said, I'm a carpenter. So when you go and do a job, you don't go to a job without the tools you need. Otherwise, the job ends up looking like shit. But if you go back with the tools you need, the proper material, you're going to make something beautiful. And it's just like life. Prepare for the best, but pray for the worst. Pray for the best, but prepare for the worst.
There you go.
The point of it was to be prepared.
Hey, but I understand completely. And like, I'm going to go into, like, to get closer to the end of this, because we're getting close to 30 minutes right now. The most important thing that I think that is about this fear of failure topic is I'm going to go into some of the moments that I've had to face my fear of failure in the face. And here's the statement I'm going to make, and we're going to go into it. So this is the most in my case, in my beliefs of who I am. I think this is the most important thing about this topic is to overcome or deal with this fear of failure. It's imagine you're in a moment where your fear of failure is staring you down the face. What you have to do is you have to stare your fear of failure in the face and conquer that moment. So I'm gonna put you in perspective. I was a cheerleader for 7 years. When I was on Top Gun in 2014 and 15, I competed with some of the best in the nation. We won many titles across the U.S. And one of the craziest moments I'd have to say would be walking out at NCAA 2015 in Dallas in February with 12,000 people in stands. I've never been in front of a crowd that big, nonetheless. But when you get out there and you have 35, I was on a team of 36 people. When you have 35 other people just sitting there relying on you, you have your coaches relying on you, you have your alternates relying on you, you have 12,000 people with their eyes staring directly at you. In that moment, I had to face my fear of failure in the eyes and conquer that singular moment. And what's important about that is I don't think you can conquer your fear of failure. I don't think you can conquer your fear of failure. What I think you can do is overcome it in that moment. I think you can be stronger in that moment and continue to build up a thicker and thicker skin of confidence, of understanding, of growth, of willingness to fail and continue to get up off your ass, like I was saying earlier. But in those moments that you feel like you're being attacked, in those moments where you don't think you have the strength, the will, whatever it is, if you can dig down deep and have the confidence to believe in yourself and stare that fear of failure in the face and say, not today, that's when you're going to start really pushing past your limits. And like I found that those moments that I've been in, which I've been in several times in my life, when I overcome that, I look back and I'm like, damn, I did that. What else can I do? What else can I achieve? What else can I conquer? And it's limitless. As long as you believe that you can continue to get up off your ass if you fail.
Yes, sir. Man, Nick, it really is true that the greatest glory isn't in failure itself. It's in rising after we fall, man. Unless we learn to face our own shadows, we're going to continue to see them. Because what's so amazing about this world is that our perspective on the inside is what we can see on the outside. If we face our fears, we fail early and fail fast, we can learn, we can grow, we can prosper, and we can leave what no longer serves us. And the beauty of it all is we are allowed to learn these things. We're allowed these lessons. You got anything else, man?
Dude, no. I mean, I'm sitting here flabbergasted because at the end of the day, like I just feel so powerful and connected to this moment that we're in right now. I think that what we've said in trying to just put it out into the world, to spill our own emotions and thoughts and vibes and our own hearts into this podcast, especially coming up for the years, days, months to come. I think that this is what it's about, man. And like, we're conquering our own fear of failure right now. And that's what's so important. And I just couldn't be more thankful to be on this journey because the stuff that just came out of my mouth and your mouth for this is just so important. It really
Yes, sir.
is.
It is, man. It is.
Well, y'all.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Finish it.
One of the ways that my mom, she allowed us to conquer the fear of the water. She did this with me and my brother both, was she threw us in the river. And it wasn't to be mean, but it was to teach us that sometimes we have to plunge ourselves into our fears. And, Michael Jordan, and I tried to pick someone neutral. I feel like everyone knows who Michael Jordan is, so this is a good analogy. Did you know he missed 9,000 shots in his career? He lost over 300 games. Nicholas, and y'all listen, 26 times he had the game-winning shot and missed it. And after one of his biggest games, they asked him, "Hey, you know, why do you continue to succeed? Why are you different from all these other people?" He told them, "I failed over and over again, and that is why I succeed." So if that doesn't put perspective on fear of failure, I don't know what else will.
And just to end this off, I think that what's so important is trying to redefine the future generations and us and whoever in the world that failure is just the next step to succeeding. And that's hard for me to remember at times. It's hard for me to grasp and make sure, because I just want to be successful. I just want to make sure that I'm going the steps that I want to take. I want to become everything that I've ever wanted to become. And what's so important to realize is that every mistake you make, if you learn from it, you're going to be that closer to making it to where you want to be. Instead of just continually succeeding, the best way to get there is to fail and to learn from those mistakes. With that, y'all, listen, thank you so much for tuning in today. We're the developers of Owner Opportunities Reinforcing Success. I'm Nicholas Sternloff.
I'm Zachary Otts.
And y'all, listen, let's continue to be our best selves and try to address our fears, our failures, and continue to move forward step by step. Thank you, and bless up.